developers, when he asked the other developers questions about what exactly it is that they're doing, very few, according at least to what he says, very few knew. In fact, I think he used the words most didn't have an answer. They didn't know what the goal for World of Warcraft is. Now, about a year ago, I can't remember exactly when this video was that I made. I made a video around about the middle of BFA where I said exactly that. World of Warcraft feels like a game that simply doesn't know what it wants to be at its core. It feels like a game that is sort of just thrashing about, throwing everything at the wall and hoping that something sticks, even if those things don't really go together. Still just the hope that something will stick. A good example of this is the power or the borrowed power systems that they have in World of Warcraft. Borrowed power systems do not go with hardcore PvP or PvE content. They do not go together. If you want to make a competitive game, a competitive MMO, where raiding and PvP is sort of the hallmarks of your game, you cannot have borrowed power systems in it, because it creates a barrier to entry, and most people that want to raid at that very high level don't want arbitrary barriers to entry. They want their skill to be the only barrier to entry. So again, this is something where the vision of the game doesn't appear to be fleshed out. It feels like the game wants to be a million things at once, but at the same time it doesn't know how to be anything. Another good example of this that I think a lot of people don't realize, and he talks about this in the video as well, is the story of World of Warcraft. Like he said at the beginning, World of Warcraft used to be, it always had a story, let's be real. There's never been an expansion in World of Warcraft where no story existed. But the story in World of Warcraft was always very, shall we say, overarching. It was sort of the skeleton of the story, with everything else really happening outside of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, as someone who cares very deeply about the lore, I love the fact that the story has become something bigger in World of Warcraft, but anyone that has been on the channel for any period of time will know that I have major criticisms about Blizzard's direction with the stories. And the big reason again here is goals. What do you want to be? If you want to be a story MMO, you cannot have arcade style questing. Again, a clear example of where World of Warcraft doesn't know what it wants to be. Do you want to be a story MMO? In that case, jump into the fucking world and fix your questing. The questing needs to be far closer to something like Elder Scrolls Online, something like Witcher 3. You have to have proper RPG storylines, proper RPG story questing. The problem is World of Warcraft has this, we want to be story first, and you can see that there is an extreme push for story and how the story in World of Warcraft is meant to develop. But none of that siphons through to the rest of the game design. The quest is still very much geared towards this hardcore MMO, where PvP and PvE is the main focuses. Why? Because the quest is actually just a barrier to get to max level. You have to go through all of these quests, do them as quickly as possible so that you can get to max level. Once you're at max level, that's when you start doing the things that the game has. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how World of Warcraft used to be. That's how I fell in love with World of Warcraft and coincidentally fell in love with the story. The problem is, the story isn't being done justice in World of Warcraft outside of the box and the cinematics, because the game itself isn't a story MMO. There is no effort being put to making it a story MMO, and this is where we get once again to the muddied goalposts. no one really seems to know what needs to happen where. Next, he starts talking about the human element in World of Warcraft and how that really is, and I think most people can admit to it, the human element is completely and utterly missing from World of Warcraft. When you think about the classification of World of Warcraft, it is classified as an MMO RPG. The RPG bit means role-playing game, and that's perfectly fine. You can have single-player games that is great RPGs, see Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk 2077 when it launches next month. Hopefully, who knows? But the MMO bit really does put some kind of responsibility on the developer of that game to put the player first. The player must be the central focus of the game. MMO stands for Massive Multiplayer Online, meaning you are not playing this game alone. This is not a single player video game. This is a game that is meant to be enjoyed with thousands, if not millions of people around the world. Right now in World of Warcraft, the only reason it can still be called an MMO is because when you run inside the world, sometimes other people run past you, and those are not NPCs. As for your reliance on these other people, that no longer exists. And so we get back to his original pillars of World of Warcraft. The world is the character, the player is the story, and the community is the content. It's as if World of Warcraft lost the player is the story. In other words, yes, you have an amazing story in World of Warcraft, and as a lore channel, no one knows that better than me. But you forgot who should be the main focus of the story, the player. It should be about the stories that players create. Your game really should just give us a canvas to create our stories on. Either that, or you must change the focus of the game to a story MMO, much like Elder Scrolls Online, where now the story is the front and center, the rest of the game doesn't really matter. But you have to figure that out, because right now the player is suffering. The player no longer matters, their stories are no longer being told. Then of course he gets into something that we've spoken to at length on this channel, extrinsic versus intrinsic development styles, and what is the focus of World of Warcraft. And as he explains here, World of Warcraft has started to focus so much on the extrinsic value of the game and the extrinsic rewards of the game, rather than focusing at all on the intrinsic. And really, he makes a point in this where he says World of Warcraft started to focus so much on the progression systems and the reward systems within the game, rather than focusing on the things really that only an MMO can do. If you think about guilds, single player games can't do guilds. They can do versions of it, but it's usually very watered down and nowhere near as good, right? Single player games cannot do massive 20-man raids or even 40-man city raids or things like that. There are things that MMOs can do remarkably well, and these are the very things, according at least to Chris, that World of Warcraft no longer focuses on. There is zero focus on doing the things that MMOs can do well. There is a massive focus on doing things that historically MMOs can't do well, like progression systems. When you're gonna have this giant progression system that is sort of an expansion only event, this isn't really something that you can do in a game where you're playing with millions of other people, because it has to be 100% balanced around every single person's whim, around what every single person wants to play and how they want to play it. These are far easier to do in things like single player games, where really it does only boil down to what the player themselves wants to do, rather than what the community suggests the player should be doing. At the end of the day, as far as Chris is concerned, these progression systems have sort of taken World of Warcraft in a different direction. And I do want to clarify once again, I said this at the beginning of the video, but I feel like it must be said again. World of Warcraft, gaming is a subjective beast. Everyone is going to love different things. I don't like or even Well, actually, the correct word would be I despise the progression systems of World of Warcraft. I fucking loathe the progression systems of World of Warcraft. I would much prefer World of Warcraft go back to a time where the guild was the focus, the raids and dungeons was really the only progression systems that you had, because they were the places where you would get your gear, and PvP was a progression system in and of itself, only meant for PvP players. This is sort of what I long for in World of Warcraft, but it is subjective. You will not see it the same way, and that is okay, but we should be able to have a conversation about a middle ground where both of us are somewhat happy with where the game is. We can't be 100% happy, but maybe we can be 70% happy. He ends the video once again talking about Division and talking about how when talking to other developers, it is clear that they don't know. And one thing that I took away from this, as I said, that is so positive, he doesn't think that the vision for World of Warcraft, the main vision, ever really changed. He believes that that vision is still there. They still want the world as the main character, the player as the story, and the community as the content. That is still what they want. He says the problem is that it seems like even talking to his fellow developers, everyone seems to be confused about what the story should be, what the game should be. They don't know what the vision should be, and this becomes a question of, is that Ian Hazzikostas' fault? Is his ability to communicate his vision for World of Warcraft just not there? Is it maybe not just his fault? Is it maybe a fault from the top down, where things have become so muddied that no one really knows what the vision for the game should be moving forward? One thing is clear, Blizzard is trying to cater to everyone, and as we know, if you try to keep everyone happy, you usually end up keeping no one happy and not even keeping yourself happy. You have to make a decision. What is it that we want to be, and then be that. There is hope, of course, Shadowlands being the third expansion, that Blizzard is trying this grand experiment of engagement, of player systems, and most likely it will also fail. Not the expansion. The expansion, I think, is going to be amazing. I think the progression systems will fail. Once again, they'll provide such a nightmare experience for developers trying to fix them that hopefully after Shadowlands, Blizzard lets go of this dream and realizes that this clearly isn't working. He ends the video though on a pretty sad note, and that's one of the things I'll touch on here. He wants to be part of the next big company that makes the next big virtual world. And for a long time, he believed that that company will be World of Warcraft, will be Blizzard, at least. Not necessarily World of Warcraft, but Blizzard. He actually did think for a very long time that World of Warcraft would make a comeback, that it is once again going to claim the crown of the ultimate MMO, the game that everyone wants to be and everyone wants to play. He no longer thinks that that's the case. He literally said he's gonna start looking at the next company that can make the next big virtual world, because that's where he wants to be. Now, whoever that is, you can let me know in the comment section down below. I have no idea. It could be Ashes of Creation, it could be Elder Scrolls, it could be...
So, you remember New World? The game a bunch of us got to play earlier this year in that week-long early preview event. Open world MMO coming up from Amazon Game Studios just this week. I got to check out this upcoming update that adds a brand new high-level zone to the game called Reekwater, the fishing trade skill, along with a few quality of life changes with adjustments to enemy AI, difficulty levels, combat, and UI. All told, I got to play for roughly about 3 hours, where I went around exploring and checking out a bunch of these changes, and I basically just want to walk you through and show you what I got to see, because there's some pretty interesting stuff here if you're interested in New World. So let's get right into it. I gotta say, first off, events like this can be a little strange. You get thrown straight into the end game with a brand new character. Fortunately though, I played over 50 hours of that preview event, so it didn't take too long for me to get my bearings. The first thing I did was open up my inventory, where I had options and access to the full range of weapons, equipment, accessories, and stat choices. So I decided to go with a full set of light armor for maximum dodge, all of the dexterity accessories accessories, and I also put all of my attribute points into dexterity. Interesting note here, I had read that they were changing it and adding diminishing returns when you dumped all your stats into one attribute, but the damage numbers kept going up, so I just kept clicking dexterity. And then I went through the different weapon masteries and I picked the skills and passives for the weapons that I wanted to use, which were the bow, the life staff, and the spear. Yes, spear, that's right. It's a brand new weapon that was added during one of the previous alpha patches. This is a melee weapon that gives both long distance pierce damage and range capabilities. It does scale primarily on dexterity, hence my incessant clicking earlier. And its two skill trees are the Impaler and the Zoner. So the Impaler specializes in closing the gap and quick attacks that impart status effects. It's got the Skewer ability where you charge forward, strike your target, and kick them back, applying a bleed effect. Perforate, where you perform 3 quick piercing strikes that apply a rend debuff. And then Vault Kick, where you plant the spear, vault forward, and kick the target. This one does a significant amount of stamina damage and also applies an exhaust debuff. And then there is the Zoner skill tree that specializes in keeping enemies at a distance and throwing spears. The first ability is Javelin, which just pulls up your spear, allowing you to aim it and throw it at a target. And the other two abilities that I didn't actually get to try myself are Cyclone, the spinning attack that knocks back enemies, and Sweep, that sweeps the target's legs, knocking them down. So now that I was all set up with my equipment, my weapons, the skills I wanted to use, I played around with the spear attacks for a few minutes and started exploring the new zone of Reekwater. So this is an end game zone for players level 58 to 60. It's actually located east of Everfall and south of Weaver's Fen. It's this swampy region. It's got kind of a southern bayou feel to it. Like there's lots of ferns and moss everywhere, these willowy trees, tons of shallow waters, and a whole hell of a lot of mist. I gotta say, the environments in this game, I think, are one of the strong points, really. There are just absolutely some gorgeous landscapes, vistas, and points of interest to discover. Even if, to some degree, a lot of the locations can kind of feel similar, some of the zones have a pretty distinct atmosphere, and I think Reekwater fills that kind of heavily wooded, swampy vibe. The main settlement in Reekwater is called Reekwater Hamlet. It's this dilapidated fishing village made up of bridges and walkways that are constructed out of wooden planks and ropes. The whole town kind of has this treehouse feel. In fact, there are quite literally homes up in the trees. Quite a different layout, I have to say, as well, from a lot of the other zones settlements, which was a common complaint during the preview event, that a lot of the towns were very similar, in some cases practically identical. So it's cool to see that they're kind of mixing it up a bit with the Reekwater Hamlet. So I explored around for a bit in the town. I picked up what were 3 available quests to do, but before I left the town, I played around with the fishing. So this is a brand new trade skill where you collect fish. So basically, whenever you're near water, if you push F3, it's gonna pull out your fishing pole, and then you can click your mouse to cast a line, which will then make a bobber appear in the water. And then when you get a nibble, you have to click again to hook the fish. And then at this point, it starts this kind of mini game where essentially you hold down click to reel the fish in, but then the tension builds up, so you gotta release before it gets too high because it can potentially break the line, and you have to kind of rinse and repeat. I gotta say, it seemed to take an awkwardly long amount of time, even in some instances where there was a really short distance. Like, to pull in the fish took a really long time after you hooked it. I mean, there could be a fish right in front of me, but I would have to be like reeling and releasing tension and reeling and releasing tension and doing that for like a good 15-20 seconds. Even if the fish that I hooked was 5 feet in front of me, I feel like they need to play with this mechanic a little bit so that you only have to do the hooking and reeling a ton when the line is cast further out, because that kind of makes the most sense, right? No, I don't fish, so I don't know. I explored the town, I tried the fishing. Now is time to actually head out into Reekwater, do some fighting of enemies, check out the new weapons, the changes to combat, and do a bit of questing. So let's talk about that experience. The first quest I did asked me to head on over to Maria's Rest. This was located in the far northeast corner of Reekwater. Now, on my way there, I came across a few areas. There was this place called Glimmerfen where I fought some angry earth and even angrier boars. I don't know why their wildlife is so pissed off in this game. I got a nice look at some different environmental weather effects as well with this like bio-y, swampy area. Like I emerged out of this foggy lowland into this big sun-swept field, and the sun just like cut through all the fog. It was really cool. Like I said earlier, I like the environments in this game. It absolutely is a strong suit here. I also came across this shrine where I saw an enemy type that I hadn't seen before. These were called Stone Seep Elders, and they appear to be summoners. Like they summoned in reinforcements to help them out. So that was neat to see. I also saw these enemies called Detonators, which I don't remember seeing those either. These would run up to you and they would explode upon death. A little bit different from the barrel zombies that would run up to you and explode upon death. So I guess this enemy isn't quite different. But anyway, regardless, it was cool to see some more diversity and things that I hadn't explicitly seen during my 50 hours with those preview events, and also something a little more interesting beyond those kind of basic melee zombie and skeleton enemies that this game is just completely filled with. Kept going. I finally arrived at Maria's Rest, and I got this nice extended period of combat. And I also fought some rather difficult elite enemies. There were these yellow ghosts that could instantly teleport to you. They cast this lightning storm, which dealt damage and knocked you back. They had this AoE snare, which would slow me down, and this staggering lightning zap, which would also make it difficult for me to get to them. Just in general, this encounter required a bit more maneuvering than a majority of the encounters that I'm used to. I also saw these banners that I believe were used to heal and buff their nearby enemies. There were also these elite brawlers, which I for sure have seen before. They are tough with this really strong damage mitigation effect, and they're also just going to keep charging at you. I worked my way through those, collected these journal pages for my quest, and as I was making my way out of the area, I came across what I assumed to be some sort of a world boss. His name was Smooth Bore Samuel. Now, I figured I got a bow, maybe I can cheese this guy. Nope. One shot and he was immediately on top of me, smashing away. I did manage to sneak my way into a nearby structure, and I thought maybe I'll just try ranging him from up here, but I learned quickly that the cannon on his back wasn't just for show, so I made my way out of the area. My next quest took me to these stone ruins. These are kind of rather typical for this game. This particular one was filled with a variety of melee and archer angry earth enemies, as well as these giant tentacles, which were very, very annoying. They could basically zone you from across the map, or if they weren't doing that, they can burrow underground, pop up right beside you, and knock you on your ass. This entire area was actually rather dense. There was just a lot of enemies between the tentacle creatures, the ranged and the melee angry earth enemies, and even with a couple other players in the vicinity, it took some working to make your way through the temple. The respawn rates were also really, really high, but I went in there, killed a bunch of enemies. I gathered these ancient stone tablets that I was looking for, helped some people find theirs because they had trouble, and then after that, my remaining quest took me to these ancient guardian towers, a haunted cave, this abandoned coastal village, and some more ruins deeper within the swamp. All the while, really getting a nice variety of combat experience fighting off different zombies, skeletons, and ancient earth. And throughout this whole period of 3 hours of primarily doing combat, it really gave me a good feel and look at the combat changes that took place. So if you weren't aware, they announced not too long ago the weapons in the game now have independent cooldowns for their skills. And what I'm going to say next was absolutely going to make some people mad, but I got to admit, I kind of liked it. I genuinely liked how combat felt with these independent cooldowns. I enjoyed being able to run up to an enemy, cast my charge ability with my spear, and then do my triple jab to do a ton of damage, swap it out to throw it and hit another enemy or finish that first one off, and then I could instantly swap to my bow and cast my spread shot or my rapid shot. And then, if things were getting hairy, I could switch to my life staff, blink away, and heal up. It honestly just felt good to have full access to the wide range of abilities, and let's be real here, it's only 9 abilities, which is definitely on the small side when it comes to like MMOs. And I think that's gonna kind of be the interesting situation that this game finds itself in, is they're trying to strike this balance between an MMO game which typically has characters have access to a wide swath of skills and abilities at any given time, even on the smaller side with games like Guild Wars 2 and ESO, other games that have weapon swapping in them. I think each of those games has access to at least 12 to 14 abilities at any given time. time. So New World is still on the shorter side of how many skills you can use in combat with only 9, but I digress. The point is that they're trying to have this balance between this action combat game that is inspired but drastically watered down compared to something like Dark Souls, and an MMO with generic skills that you can use. Even though I enjoyed this, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm a game developer and know the best possible outcome for the game. There's definitely a big camp out there of people who really like the focus on the basic light and heavy attacks, the blocking, the dodging, and all of that stuff. I just feel that their fundamental melee system isn't quite as nuanced or doesn't have the depth of Dark Souls, which I've talked about in prior videos. There's really no argument. It doesn't have the depth of Dark Souls. I'm not saying there's no skill or finesse that you can have in the melee combat in New World, but it is a pale comparison to the amount of things and combat variety that you have in, again, Dark Souls, the game that they say this combat system is inspired by. So I think it makes sense that they're trying to strike this balance between that basic combat system and access to your skills. And at least with my short amount of playtime in this preview event, having the full access to all 3 skills on all 3 of my weapons in every combat encounter, it felt freaking great, dude. It felt so much better than hitting 2 abilities in the preview event and then spamming away at light attack, because that's just how you did PvE in the game. Again, I'm not a developer. I don't know if this is ultimately the best solution in the game that's gonna put it in the best long-term position. I just gotta say, I liked having access to all of my skills on all of my weapons. The fights and the combat in general just felt so much better to me with this current update. So there you have it. That's the overview of the hands-on event that I got to take a look at this week, checking out the brand new zone of Reekwater, the fishing mechanic, the javelin weapon, as well as the changes to combat via skill cooldowns. I think all around, these are some nice additions and improvements to the game, so I hope they keep going and improving the game. I hope they make tweaks to combat where they feel necessary. I hope we get more and better enemy AI and more variety. And yeah, let's hear more about your plans for endgame PvE, because you know, they told us this was an endgame zone, but there wasn't anything that I found that I couldn't solo. Oh yeah, there was that one guy. All right, guys, so that's it. That is some of the updates and changes coming to New World. I hope we continue to see more of these, better improvements, deeper systems, and more endgame PvE. Please, dear God, just give us some. Okay, thank you. I hope New World turns out good. It's the only MMO on the horizon that's not the same 5 I've been playing for 20 years, so do good, New World, okay? Thanks, please, bye.
Inventory is full. I can't carry anymore.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Byfear. So it's been about a week since Beyond Light launched, but I want to let you know that there will be spoilers in this video and practically all of the videos that follow this one.
I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready yet. Zug. For the Horde!
I got what you need. Keep it real. Time is money, friend. What's up? Have a good one.
Keep it quick, kid. I ain't got all day.
Do I have a deal for you? Be good.
Hey there. Just passing through? Welcome to Ratchet. Hope you're looking for work.
Yo! Keep it real. Hey, how you doing? Have a good one.
Talk to me.
Thrallhall. Victory!
Oh, do I have a deal for you? Hurry back!
Yo.
Keep it real.
Yeah, what do you want? Be good.
I got the best deals anywhere. Be good.
Yo! Keep it real.
How may I help? Good luck, friend. That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet.
I did a special last night on the Georgia revote. Now it's happening. What is it? January 5th or 5th, and it's for all of the marbles. All of the marbles. If the Republicans only win one, you're going to lose Mitt Romney. I mean, you know, hey, we should take guns away. Mitt's there. He's like, yeah.
Murkowski, Collins.
Yeah, I mean, you lose one, and you're at a tie, and then Kamala. You have to have both of them, and even then, it's risky. If we lose these 2 Senate seats in Georgia, there's nothing holding them back from changing everything. Barry Loudermilk is with us now. Hi, Barry.
Glenn, how are you doing?
Good. Congressman from Georgia. First of all, give me a rundown on what's happening in Georgia with the recount and the Trump case.
Charging.
Well, the recount was going back and doing a hand recount. We have machine voting in Georgia, which you go up to electronic machine, you make your choice, then it prints a hard copy ballot. This is the first major election we've had that has had that option, which I fought for years, to be able to have a hard copy ballot. So that hard copy comes out of the machine. You look at it, you verify, yes, these are the people I voted for. Then they run it through a counting machine and it goes into a box. So part of the hand recount was not just taking the electronic total, but actually counting those ballots. The good news out of that was the in-person voting that the machines produced was accurate. There wasn't some vote switching on that part. And the reason that's such good news is because the majority of Trump voters came out and voted in person, either early or on election day.
And is that the Dominion system?
That is the Dominion system.
That's good news.
So, yeah, so the good news is the Dominion system did work. The issue we're having is with the absentee ballots. Now, the recount is going to go through. Trump is going to cut into Biden's lead when it comes out, but it's not going to put Trump back on top because they're just counting these ballots. Now, we do have, these mostly are absentee ballots that went from Biden. I mean, unbelievable number. And when I say unbelievable, I mean an unbelievable number of absentee ballots went to Biden. And so the issue is going to be challenging, were any of those ballots illegal or fraudulent? And so we're actually having some people I personally know have filed affidavits saying that they have seen boxes of ballots that were pristine. These are absentee ballots. In other words, they had never been folded to where they would have been going into an envelope.
Not enough
There were no creases. And in fact, the where you fill out the little bubble for your choice was so perfect it appeared, now I'm just quoting what they're saying, appeared that it may have been run through a printer or a machine. So we do have several counts of that going through. So, and I talked to some people today who said, yes, these people have filed affidavits. And I personally know one of them, and she is not a conspiracy type person. And so there's numbers of those. And that's the trick, is getting to those ballots so we can actually, and I'm not just saying this so Trump will win. I think it's extremely important that Trump gets another 4 years, but it's more important that we have an election system of integrity.
Yeah, we have to trust it.
That's the most important thing.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw our messages yesterday, but we know that the whistleblower has come forward in a sworn affidavit detailing a clerical error at the polling center in DeKalb County. He says over 1,000 votes were given to Biden that shouldn't have. And it's, it's one thing to hear about him and another thing to hear him right straight from the people that saw it. Two questions on this. One of my researchers went and was poking around and just seeing what he had said, etc., and found it incredibly easy to unmask this whistleblower and his address and everything. And I think he's in danger. Is there a way to protect this guy's identity? Because the state's not doing it.
Right, and there needs to be, because back when all the riots were happening, we had somebody, the term doxing. I had my home address doxed by someone.
Right.
And so, fortunately, they didn't get it exactly right, but we do know some of those nefarious people with various groups were trying to figure out where I live. To an element, unfortunately, you have to expect that when you're in a position such as I'm in, or you're in, that is very public. But when a citizen who simply needs to do their civic duty gets could get that kind of threat, yes, we have to be able to protect these people in one way or the other. And that's something that I think the state legislature is going to have to look at. In the meantime, I think
spell isn't ready yet.
law enforcement is going to have to provide some level of protection to them. The problem is if you're in a strongly Democrat-run county with a Democrat sheriff, in today's day and time, you just can't trust that. And I hate to say that, but we're that divided right now as a nation.
Can you assure the American people that this next election in Georgia is going to be safe, monitored, counted right?
I desperately want to do that, Glenn. I've got to see how desperate our Secretary of State wants that to be as well, and how much effort we're going to put in fighting this. I believe there is going to be. And I've talked to some members of the Georgia legislature who want to act quickly to make some changes, but they're not going to apply to this election. The only way that we're going to know that this election is conducted honestly and with integrity, with a lot of people having access to monitor the election process. We got to have more than we did before. Good citizens who care about this nation, who care less about the outcome than they do an honest election system. And you're absolutely right. Both of the Democrats running for Senate, they are socialist Marxists. In fact, the one you were talking about, who idolizes Reverend Wright as a prophet, recently came out and said that abortion aligns with Christian values. It's biblical. I'm like, I can't find that in the Bible.
No, I don't. He also says Jesus was a Marxist, so he was for socialism. So, and a Palestinian. He wasn't a Jew. He was a Palestinian. Barry, I appreciate it. One last thing, just a personal note. We know how to contact the whistleblower, but we don't want to freak them out. We can protect their identity, but we'd love to share that story from the horse's mouth with voice disguising, et cetera, et cetera. Would you mind reaching out so it's not a scary thing and just seeing if there's an interest so we can call them? Because, again, we don't want to freak them out.
Right. Yeah, we'll be glad to work with you on that, Glenn, to see what we can get. And I'm working on some other, I can't divulge what it is right now, but there's some other recordings that may be of interest for us to get out as well. But we'll be glad to work with you on that.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Barry Loudermilk, Congressman from Georgia. Appreciate it, Barry. Walter Cronkite once said, "In seeking truth, you have to get both sides of the story." The media is no longer interested in both sides of the story. Sometimes they don't want either side. Not if it contradicts with their own. Because, worst of all, they're not even interested in really seeking the truth. I know, I've been there. The media machine is so odious and so corrupt that when it encounters an actual journalist, it rejects them. It's like the body rejecting a disease. That's exactly what happened to our guest today. She's got so many Walter Cronkite qualities, except for the lean towards socialism kind of part, that she drives journalists out of their mind. She has a spine, a soul.
I need a target. I'm out of range.
I have enough to get credit for this. Yeah, I did. Okay, sweet. See, we got a few more root and pelts out of that. That seemed worth it, right? So we're also killing all the 37 copper drop. Huge tactics. Absolutely. I love how we get so excited about that stuff. Yo, good to see you, tactics, man. How we doing, tactics? No, not exactly. Ompy. I had a few scuffs already. Oh, don't run from these boars. I resisted the urge to want to hit this other one. You just have to kind of like stand your ground and fight them and take an L, because they can charge you. If you factor in like the leeway range, they can charge you and do just ridiculous damage. They will end your damn career. You have to kill these one at a time, man. IMO, unless you're Ompy. And you can kill like 20 at a time probably. But dude, oh my god, see that? Look at the damage. The damage you take from these guys is insane, man. Like actually insane. Like actually so insane. Come on, pig, die. Alright, let's see if we can afford our gun. I don't think we can. 3 silver, 73. We're gonna have to sell the blue pouch. The blessed blue pouch. Almost died from a campfire. 487? We can afford it? It's a Christmas miracle? How can I afford that? And I can keep the pouch? Okay, this run is looking pretty blessed. We're buying all the damn ammo. Going broke on ammo.
Safe travels.
This is actually a pretty blessed run, man. Look at all this ammo we have. How was I able to afford that? I have no clue, honestly. Okay, skull axe. We need to kill all the boars. We need crag ribs. We need boar meat. Yo, that's insane, man. I was really able to afford the good gun? The big slap? You're kidding me right now. Didn't have to sell my blessed blue pouch? Oh, there comes the charge. Oh, I got some sick copper items? Okay, that must have been it. Yeah, that's why you got excited, huh, Tactics? Because I got some sick copper items. I see. So I need to kill these and hopefully get lucky with the rib drops and the boar meat. Hopefully. Oh, here comes the charge. I know they don't look scary right now. Try pulling 2. I think any class dies if you pull 2, man. These things are insane. So we have 2 ribs. That's about average start. Not great. We have 0 boar meat. That's unfortunate. We need the boar meat for the quest with the fur. So we're basically going to kill every single boar en route, because finding these... There's not that many boar spawns near Keranos for some unknown reason. There's a lot of bears. There's jaguars, but when you're right next to Keranos looking for the boar meat, maybe it's because other people are trying to find it too, because they're in the same pickle, but you can't find it. So, crag boar rib, okay, not bad. You need 6 of those for one of the quests. Okay. Wait, how come it says level 6 is green? Tactics, you hear, man? Does that mean my level 6 is better than yesterday's level 6? No way, man. Yesterday I got an hour 47 doing this. That was my best time. Does that means I had a better time to 6 than yesterday, right? There's no way. I felt like it was kind of scuffed. Alright, we got a boar meat. That's really good. Finally getting that. I know this is a bit off the beaten path. A little sussy if this is worth it, but you really do need the boars. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're looking for boars and you're in Keranos.
Have a good one.
Rather just take the time now. Let's get it done. Unless it says it's better, yeah. Okay, awesome, man. That's awesome. Wow. So we're actually doing better than the blessed run yesterday. Okay, 2 piggies here. I already missed the boat on that one to the left. Take this one out. Come here. So it's not looking bad then. It's actually looking pretty good then. Because I didn't have a pouch yesterday, I'll tell you that.
Hey, how you
doing? No pouch gaming yesterday. Tactics is the king in speedrun? Yeah. Yeah, no, he is, man. I mean, he's just up there with all the goats. We're so lucky to have him in the community, man. For real, dude. The fact that he comes and chills in our chats every day to give us like the big brain advice.
Be good.
So lucky, guys. Zerant. You know,
time is money, friend.
Yeah, man. It's insane. Oh, nice. That's a double right there. Got the crag boar rib and the boar meat. Yo, you love to see that one, though, right there, folks. You really do. Okay. Let's see how we're doing after we kill this thing.
What's up?
Oh, he's charging. Alright, so we got 2 chunk of boar meats, and let me just stone for him, get off cooldown, and 4 crag ribs. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Oh, and another double? Oh, dude, that definitely deserves a blessed runner too. This is looking good. Only need 1 crag meat. I might even start I might not have to kill all these boars anymore. I do need the boar meat still though. But it's looking like we're gonna make we're gonna have the meat we need for Keranos. Okay, 1 tick of that. He's dead. Boar meat 1 time? No, nothing. It's looking good. So the goal is 1 to 10 in, yeah, 2 hours, I'd say. I mean, if I can get under 2 hours, I will be so happy, dude. Anybody know what the 1 to 10 record is? Like world record for Dwarf Hunter 1 to 10? Tactics, you here still? What is it? Well, I actually have no idea. The number 1 world record. I know Mage is an hour 22, I think. I think Joker has that one.
Hey, how you doing?
Hour 22 is Mage, but Hunter is gonna be slower than Mage, right? Mage pumps, dude.
Keep it real.
The fireballs. Mage actually pumps so hard.
Interesting.
Oh yes, the last boar meat, dude. Yes. This is looking really good. This is cleaner than yesterday as well. Okay. I'm happy. Let's get the Keranos now. It's looking good, and I still have my blue pouch. What's the next threat? Wendigos? Wendigos are the next threat.
One.
Should die. Okay, sweet. Yo, I'm feeling much better about this. Taking a deep breath here. You'll love to see it. No one does it on Dwarf. So there is the wait. What do you mean no? There has to be a record though, huh?
How are ya?
Okay, we'll turn this in. Let's see here, and we can immediately turn this quest in. How pog is that, guys? Because we have the ribs already. Check this out.
How are ya?
Just gotta go by the Rhapsody malt.
Keep it quick, kid.
And make this my
I ain't got all day.
Hearthstone. Try not to scuff the run. This is about the time
You got my attention.
where your boy will scuff the
All
run
with you.
majorly.
I have the finest wires
Innkeeper,
in the
make
land.
this. Okay, that's
Well
not scuffable anymore. Get the Rhapsody malt. That's not. Oh, I don't have money for the malt. Okay, have this though. Oh, chip boar tusk is 1 silver. Oh my god, dude.
Be
Rich. All right, this quest is done now. We're not level 8, so there's no skills to train. I mean, we could train.
See you soon.
Yo, is that Big Brain? Do we train Mark? Because we have a silver. There's nothing else to spend it on. I think we train it. It's right here. This is the Hunter trainer right here. It takes an extra second, but you might as well, right? We're fighting a lot of Wendigos, man. You might as well train. Oh, you know what? I'll train Monkey. What the hell?
Watch, get her back.
What the hell, man? Train Monkey. We got money like that by some miracle. Get this. I'm gonna go to Steel Grill over here. Looking good. The tilde key? Oh yeah, use the tilde key. That's like my main key, bro. The tilde key is auto shot for me. That's how high I value the tilde key. Oh, I don't have the quest for these yet. Oh no, I don't want to kill this before I get the quest. Yeah, I'm gonna let it aggro. Hopefully it doesn't die from my dot. These young black bears are very difficult to find. Okay, I'll keep it leashed. Keep it leashed. Keeping it leashed. Pulling an Ompi. Pulling an Ompi right now. Hopefully, does this give me the bear quest? Please? Yes, it does. I actually just pulled an Ompi right there. Got credit for this bear kill. Thick bear. Oh, and we got the bear fur. Feels good, man. I just pulled an Ompi. Okay.
Talk to me.
This. Over here. Is there a vendor over here? I think there is one up here. Ain't nobody got time for that, though.
How are ya?
This quest. This quest. Alright. So we need to kill, get the bears. I already have the boar meat. Just need the bears. And I already got 1 bear. If this bear drops...
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Fox News is done, folks. The people have spoken and they are no longer the voice of modern day conservatism. The days of neocon establishment corporate BS is
What?
over,
Hey there.
and it's perfect
Just
because
passing
it's
through.
targeted right towards the perfect spot, guys. Late night primetime ratings for Fox are going down, but not as much, meaning Hannity and Tucker Carlson are still doing okay. They're down, but not down by monumental figures. The rest of the network, however, is getting completely blasted. We're talking
Time
about
is money,
50%
friend.
drops in ratings in some of these metrics. It's completely crazy, and I've never seen anything like it. The mass exodus at Fox News, followed by the mass influx that we're seeing at other smaller networks. I've never seen anything like it. It's not get woke, go broke. It's more like go corporate shill, and your network ratings
Time
will
is
turn
money,
to nil.
friend.
So I gotta update you guys on all of this. I'll show you the numbers first, and I want to talk about something that I think is quite interesting here. Something that I think will make Fox News irredeemable going forward. And then we'll go into some other topics that I think are related as well. But before we get into any of it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel with notifications on and share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. It's been 3.5 weeks and no end in sight. So the only way that we can grow forward is by you guys sharing the video as much as possible. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, so here's the percentage breakdown from USMC Vet. He says, here are Fox ratings losses on Monday over 2 weeks. Neil Cavuto is down 52%, Brett Baer down 46, McCallum 45, Ingram 45, Fox and Friends 45, Hannity 39, and Tucker Carlson down 33%. This is crazy, but honestly, makes me happy. It's just the right thing to do, and lefties, of course, are going to come in my comment section, or I might get people making response videos saying, liberal hive mind supports cancel culture. But this, my friends, is not cancel culture. This is called the free market. Cancel culture is what vile leftists do, going after people's advertisers, doxing them, trying to get them fired from their job. No one's going after Neil Cavuto and trying to ruin his life, get him fired, or get his advertisers to drop him. People are just sick of political hacks, network hacks, who try to push a narrative instead of covering both sides. It's pretty much as simple as that, friends. That is not cancel culture. That's the market. That's people deciding where they want to put their attention, because we all know in the modern day, attention is monetized. But I mean, the numbers are just incredible, friends. I've got this to show you guys the three main networks, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, October 30th, and then we've got the same thing for Monday, November 16th, so about 2 weeks apart. Now, a lot of people are saying that no one's boycotting Fox News. The ratings aren't tanking through the floor. The election's just over, and people aren't watching it as much anymore, which couldn't be further from the truth because we're still in election month. But if you look at CNN and MSNBC, the numbers are relatively stagnant, and in some cases, the ratings have gone up over the last week or so. But Fox News is seeing ridiculous tanking in the ratings. Like I mentioned earlier, Neil Cavuto is down nearly half, and you can tell that it's happening specifically to the people who are more corporate establishment hack. Neil Cavuto is obviously the pinnacle of exactly that. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson has not suffered that much of a hit, and he's still getting above 4 million shows during his primetime segment. Hannity's gone down just a little bit, but not to the same degree, and Greg Gutfeld, same thing, with the Five not suffering nearly as big of a hit. And here's the point that I wanted to make earlier. The neocons of the past, the more legacy style Republicans, GOP voters, you know, the people who could vote for Jeb Bush and then actually sleep at night, those are the people that are still sticking around and watching Fox News. But Fox is tanking with the exact viewer that they need, the young viewer. Fox saw almost 3.5 million total views for its primetime shows between November 9th and 15th. So like I told you guys, the primetime's doing all right compared to just 2.4 million for CNN and just 2.2 for MSNBC. In the 25 to 54-old demographic that advertisers cater to, CNN won 670,000 viewers compared to 649 from Fox News. So while Fox is obliterating CNN in the actual total views, when it comes to youth viewers, they're not doing well whatsoever. And this is where they're completely out of touch with the next generation of conservatives, the millennial conservatives, which is followed by the Gen Z conservative. These are the folks that are not interested in Fox News or corporate media in general. This is the generation of social media and independent creators. And so what's Fox News' business plan going forward? Because they're going to seriously need to cater to this demographic if they plan on surviving, but I don't think it's going to be possible. I mean, just think about the way the YouTube algorithm works. When you watch one of my videos, one of Tim Pool's videos, Dr. Steve Turley, you name it, what do you see on the right side, on the right panel on your internet browser? It's always Fox News every single time. The YouTube algorithm, Google as a whole, does everything that they possibly can to push you in the direction of legacy media. They've promoted Fox News to such a ridiculous extent to appease the corporate overlords. But even with Fox being shoved down people's throats all over YouTube, they are tanking, and this is the serious network hole tank that we're seeing. First of all, just look at some of these charts. Weekly subscribers gained for Fox News. It's not gained, it's lost. Absolutely plummeting down into the abyss of negative subscriber ratio. We've got the same thing with weekly views, tanking down to nearly half, actually less than half of what they got the week before. And the next week's going to be probably even worse. If we look at their day-by-day numbers, they went from getting 15 million views a day, like anywhere from 12 to 19, sometimes 20, sometimes even 40 million views a day during peak election season, to now regularly less than 10 million views a day. On November 16th, they got 6.2 million views. That's it. That's like less than PewDiePie. People are gonna have to leave Fox News and go look for work at Newsmax. Speaking of which, Newsmax has been blowing up like crazy. Newsmax CEO knocks down Trump TV speculation, says valuation higher than $200 million. And so this is the first time in network history, recent network history, that Fox News actually has some competition in the right-wing sphere of politics. It's unprecedented. And while Newsmax TV is, you know, it's okay, I think the real competitor is going to be whatever Trump decides to do once he gets out of the Oval Office. Newsmax is fine and all, but once again, I think it appeals to a specific demographic. The youth conservative demographic is what's important going forward. And I feel like the only person who can seriously target that are independent creators and, of course, President Donald Trump. And that's why the establishment is on an all-out war campaign, a warpath against that exact notion. If they weren't actively censoring my channel and pretty much everyone else's channel, there would be no Fox News. There would be no CNN and MSNBC. But of course, their algorithm is set to focus solely on pushing forward authoritative sources. It's all about control. It's literally all about control, keeping the status quo the way that it is. Obama said this, which I think was very telling a couple days ago. He says, the internet is the single biggest threat to our democracy. You know, it's kind of funny because without the internet, Obama would have never been elected president. But then the moment the pendulum is swinging the other way, his perspective is much different. You know what? You're right, Obama. The internet is the biggest threat to our democracy. And that is due to our tech overlords, the tech oligarchs, who manipulate the algorithms and censor information to benefit you and your cronies. It's funny how these people have the audacity to say something like that when literally the entire power structure at B, the entire structure on the internet, and all the power players there are working overtime, bending over backwards to benefit him and everyone around him. They somehow managed to get Joe Biden even close to the finish line in the 2020 presidential election. Joe Biden, 1% Biden, the guy who got absolutely smoked in every single Democrat primary ever. One of the biggest jokes of a politician, and they managed to somehow get him through. You know, we got this story right over here. Jack Dorsey tells Senate decision to censor New York Post was a, quote, mistake. But it's funny how he only says that it's a mistake after the election. The entire media apparatus did the exact same thing and censored this story or debunked it without any real facts or information. This is the biggest threat to our democracy. The last bastion for free speech and a people's democracy is exactly that, the people. Independent sources, creative people who are willing to share ideas and have discussion. That is what democracy and free discussion is all about. And it's just crazy how these people are getting more and more radicalized each and every day. I mean, this is radical. The Democrat Party is anti-free speech, censorious, anti-freedom of expression, anti-free movement of information. They want to take control of the narrative, take control over information, what can be said, what can't be said. Instead of letting the people themselves come to conclusions themselves, they want to control your life. They want to control speech. And that, by virtue, is the definition of fascist. They are the true fascists. It's not a coincidence that pretty much every single communist and socialist regime in the history of mankind has led to a dictatorship and massive loss of life and loss of human freedoms and rights. And it always starts out the exact same way, with well-intentioned, well-meaning liberals getting more and more radicalized over time and getting a further grasp on power by appealing to emotion. But that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video as much as possible. We're still quarantined by the YouTube algorithm. I gotta get back to work. There's a bunch of hypocrisy that must be exposed on a daily basis, so I'm gonna get to that. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Man, that's a lot of Australians. Well, thank you very much for coming out. It's really quite something to see here. As Dave said, this is the largest venue that we've spoken at. I had a couple of debates with Sam Harris, one in Dublin and one in London, that were in larger venues, but as far as speaking specifically about 12 rules, this is damn near twice as big as the next biggest auditorium. I think we were at the Apollo in London, and it held 3,000 people. So that was good. But this is really something. There must be quite a dearth of things to do in Melbourne tonight. No, seriously, though. engage in what I believe to be
I can't
fundamentally
cast that
a
yet.
conversation about psychological and philosophical, perhaps certainly ethical, perhaps even religious issues. Who would have ever guessed that there was a mass market for that? So, and apparently there is. And maybe we're smarter than we think we are. And I have a suspicion that that might be the case. One of the things that I've noticed about the intellectual dark web types, that's a name that Albert Einstein was like we all got together, built a little fort out in our backyard, and called it the intellectual dark web. He just happened to coin the term, and a number of people were included for one reason or another. I've spent a fair bit of time trying to understand why the coinage stuck and what it might be that united this very strangely diverse range of people. I think it's really three things. One is that each of them, from Joe Rogan to Shapiro, same with Sam Harris, are all people.
It's too far
Are
away.
all people who have independent media platforms, right? They're not part of a corporate structure.
That's still recharging.
Beholden to anyone. They're financially independent.
That spell isn't ready yet.
And they built that themselves, and so they can say what they want. And so that's kind of cool to see that happen, to see the technology that enables online video, which is really
I'm out of range.
broadcasting, and also online podcasts, which is a complex form of radio, enable that sort of independent journalism, and to see people able to not precisely exploit that, but make use of it. That's a very good thing, and I'm thinking that might be a real positive.
That's still recharging.
Media revolution. I mean, there's lots of downsides. I think Twitter is a downside. It's a pretty rough platform. The commentary on social media platforms can be brutal. They really haven't figured out how to regulate it well yet, so that it's civilized, not so that it's censored, right? Because that's a mistake. Censored and civilized aren't the same thing. Properly regulated is civilized, and we don't know how to do that. But YouTube and podcasts have opened up a huge market for intellectual material in a manner that's never really happened before. And you're also seeing this happen with audio.
My mana is low.
It has absolutely exploded in the last 5 years. About a third of books sold now are audiobooks. And so, and that seems to be because people, having become accustomed to podcasts, are downloading audiobooks and listening to them in their cars or when they're exercising or when they're doing housework. It's one of the advantages of this new media type is that you have it on demand and you can play it at your leisure or when you're working for that matter. And so, I have all sorts of working class guys come up and talk to me after the show, long haul truck drivers, those sorts of people who have a lot of time. Obviously they're concentrating on what they're doing, but they have spare time to listen, and they're listening to 3-hour Joe Rogan podcasts on all sorts of abstract subjects and my lectures as well. And it's really something to see that happening. And so that's one element of the intellectual dark web that's interesting and tied in with the new media revolution, because it really is a revolution to have video on demand like that, to have it so easy to produce, and to have it permanent, and to have it distributed everywhere in the world, and to have it subtitled in all sorts of different languages.
I guarantee you I hate politics. I'm not sure if my mother was alive that she'd even vote for me today after all this negative advertising. We got
It's Deanna Lorraine. I'm in my PJs here. Excuse me. I thought I was done for the day, but I just wanted to give you a quick update to the story I posted a few hours earlier about Michigan and Wayne County, how the 2 out of the 4 people on the board, the 2 Republicans, they were bullied and harassed last night by the Dems, by Antifa, by the mobs, relentlessly. And the mob strong-armed them so that they would rescind and go forward with certifying the election results in Wayne County. And as you saw in my video a few hours ago, I was pretty upset and called them spineless and ballless and cowardly and everything else. But there's just been breaking news here. Boom, boom, boom. Guess what? Turns out these 2 Republicans who ended up certifying the vote last night, they just decided to rescind their vote from last night, okay? They just rescinded, and they just put out and signed 2 sworn affidavits documenting their experience and giving their reasons why and telling what happened, okay? So here's what happened. And the 2 Republicans were William Hartman and Monica Palmer. Now, here's what happened. They both say that they saw tons of irregularities, lots of irregularities, including 71% of Detroit's 134 absent voter counting boards were left unbalanced and many unexplained. I informed the board members of the discrepancies, but soon after, a motion to certify was made by the vice chairman, Jonathan Klinnock. And they go on to say, you know, they said, we're going to go forward with the certification process anyways. But both him and Monica said that under a sworn affidavit that at least 71 or 72% of the absent voter counting boards were not balanced and had no explanation. So they needed investigating. And they had alerted them for weeks about this. Originally, they did not certify it. They voted no, which left them at a standstill, right? Where the 2 Democrats voted to certify, the 2 Republicans voted not to certify. Then they say under sworn affidavit that for the next 2 hours, like I said, they opened up a Zoom call, apparently, and they continued to get harassed and derided, berated, and ridiculed, which we know, by many, many people over and over again, members of the public and other board members. This conduct included claims that I was racially motivated in my decisions. This public ostracism continued for hours, during which time they were not provided any opportunity to break for dinner and were not advised that we could depart and resume the hearing on another date. So they just had to sit here for 2 hours being derided and attacked and mocked and ridiculed. So then they discussed a potential resolution with Vice Chair Kinloch in confidence. The potential resolution is that they would consider voting to certify only with the promise that they would have a full and complete audit of everything immediately after the certification. And then the Democrats agreed to it. This resolution with Vice Chair Kinloch and Ms. Anderson Davis, they said that they would do that. They also said you must certify the votes tonight. We were told that we could not consider matters such as those unexplained reasons that most of Detroit's AVCBs did not balance and no one knew why. Ms. Anderson Davis advised the board that the discrepancies were not a reason to reject the certification. And based on her explicit legal guidance, I was under the belief that I could not exercise my independent judgment in opposition to the certification. Therefore, I voted eventually to certify the results. Later in the evening, I was enticed to agree to certify based on the promise that a full and independent audit would take place. I would not have agreed to the certification, but for the promise of this audit. Later, and Vice Chairman Jonathan Kinloch also assured us that if we voted to certify the election, a full, independent, and complete audit of Detroit's election would be undertaken. We relied on this assurance in coming to an agreement, and we would not have agreed to certify otherwise with the promise of this audit. After the meeting, I was made aware that Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson made a public claim that the representations made by Mr. Kinloch on which we had relied would not be followed. So this promise that they had certified under, the Democrats and the Secretary of State, immediately after they signed, said, nope, we're not going to do this full and independent audit. We're not going to do that. We don't have to happen, and it's actually vague. It's not a mandatory, okay? So both him and the other woman, Republican, says, I voted not to certify originally, and I still believe this vote should not be certified until all these questions are answered. And he lists a lot of questions. I remain opposed to certification of the Wayne County results. And some questions he asks are, 71% of Detroit's AVCBs did not balance. Why not? Why do the poll books, qualified voter files, and final tallies not match or balance? Was any information placed directly into the qualified voter files in the AVCBs? And how many voter birth dates were altered in the poll books? Apparently he saw a lot of voter birth dates altered in the poll books. And based also upon information and belief, there were over 18,000 same-day registrations in Detroit on November 3rd. That's very bizarre. That's an anomaly. Were these new applicants verified as proper voters prior to the tabulation of their ballots? And he has a lot of other questions. He said, until there's a thorough investigation, I rescind my certification vote from last night, and I believe this should not be certified. So him and the other Republican have rescinded. So this is good news. Michigan is still in play. Okay, the Dems can stop celebrating right now. The MSM can stop celebrating. The Michigan is still in play, and this is helpful to us. But, and I was a little bit harsh in my earlier video, calling them big cowards and everything. But still, my stance really remains the same. I mean, this isn't our first rodeo. Come on, Republicans. Are these people that are on the Board of Elections, these Republicans, do they have any training at all in what the left does when you go against them? Do they have any experience at all? I mean, it's almost like these people are novices. They're brand new and they're soft. They actually thought, like, how naive is it to think that you're going to, that a Democrat, that a Marxist is going to give you what you want after you concede to them, that they're going to play fair, that they're going to fulfill their end of the bargain after you sign and do something for them what they want. Are you kidding me? Never cave to the mob, never bend a knee to the mob. This was their mistake. Again, they sat there for 2 hours while their Democrat board members were ridiculing them, attacking them, verbally assaulting them. And they think that by conceding to them that they're going to fulfill their end of the bargain afterwards. Are you kidding me? I mean, come on, right? And they gave into it. I mean, it's still, they conceded. Eventually the mob won. They let the mob bully them and they won. They gave them what they want out of fear. After 2 hours of bullying, they had enough and they ran home. And before they did, they made a bargain with the left and said, well, fine, we'll certify tonight and then give us a full audit. And again, that's naive because you lost your only leverage.
In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest turn. Invite all of you. Link down includes John for about this in other videos. Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton tallies in every single municipality in the nation, every single one for the exception of 4, Milwaukee, Detroit, Philly, and Atlanta. And in these 4 cities, Biden didn't just overperform 2016 levels, he superperformed. We're talking 90, 95, 98% turnout, which makes absolutely no sense. It's not like he campaigned in those 4 cities to any significant degree. There's no variable that rationally accounts for him super performing. And again, we're talking above Obama levels, right, back in 2008. And so this is where I think Trump's legal team is going to have the most success in highlighting the voting irregularities and improprieties going on in these 4 swing states. A success that I think his legal team is saying is going to clearly overturn the election. But it may be something else that overturns this election, and that's electors with a conscience who are stepping up and blowing the whistle here. Now, if you're not familiar with what happened in Wayne County just 2 days ago, Wayne County electors, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, were deadlocked over certifying the vote in Wayne County. There were simply too many voting discrepancies. Apparently over 70% of the vote had chain of custody irregularities. And so in a vote of 2-2, the Board of Canvassers basically failed to certify the Wayne County vote, which meant that Michigan would certify its votes without Wayne County, which meant that Trump won Michigan in a nutshell. Well, it didn't take long for Democrats to launch a massive assault against these two Republican electors, as you can imagine. And the intimidation and threats were so bad that they ended up reversing course in a matter of hours and voted to certify the county's election results, again, due to enormous, shall we say, pressure by the Democrats. I believe the Godfather way of putting it is that the Democrats made these two Republicans an offer they couldn't refuse, okay? And obviously this infuriated the millions of Trump voters who've not given up the fight. You know, we know this election is still on. We know Trump won, and he most certainly can close in on his win on November 3rd, his landslide win. And so, you know, there was just a sense of despair. I mean, yeah, I heard it from you. If Republican, again, keep that in mind, if Republican electors are going to certify ballots, over 70% of which are suspect, I mean, what's the point in all this? Why even fight? In fact, in yesterday's video, we talked very seriously about the prospects and strategies behind fronting a third-party challenge to the Republicans. Well. This saga continues to get more interesting by the hour. As it turns out, in a dramatic reversal, the two Republicans on the Wayne County Election Board have officially rescinded their votes, which in turn decertifies the results of the county that Biden must win in order to win Michigan. Single most populous county in Michigan that just so happens to have been one of the 4 municipalities that Biden superperformed at, completely out of step, of course, of how he did in the other 46 states. That one county has now been officially decertified, and it gets even better. Both electors have signed sworn affidavits that they were threatened, their families were intimidated, bullied into voting to certify ballots, the integrity of which were so obviously compromised. Now, these affidavits signal possible legal action against these Democrats. In their signed affidavits, the Republican electors testified that they were pressured to certify the vote, even though there were enormous discrepancies in nearly 3/4, you heard that right, nearly 75% of Detroit's precincts poll books where ballots were supposed to be matched to qualified voters. Now, just so you know, there is a comparable thing going on in Atlanta right now, one of the other municipalities where Biden superperformed. Georgia's Secretary of State, who's a never-Trumper rhino, back in March, signed off on a secret legal agreement with the Democratic Party of Georgia, with the Democratic Senatorial Campaign, and with the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And he agreed to alter absentee ballot procedures in Georgia. And you ready for this? They did not require signature verification. All right, this is a result of Stacey Abrams' influence, the former Democratic governor candidate who still thinks she won the election. They don't require signature verification, which I think will be easily challenged in court, by the way. And as a result, the Secretary of State and the Election Board changed the manner in which absentee ballots were counted, which they had no right to do. Only the state legislature, according to the U.S. Constitution, only the state legislature can prescribe the place, time, manner of an election. So I think this has a good chance of being overturned in of itself. But as a result, we talked about this in yesterday's video, as a result of that, the historical precedent for discarding illegitimate ballots has itself been completely discarded. Georgia's rejection rate of mail-in ballots back in 2016 was 3%. That's average, as I understand. Around 3% of mail-in votes are going to be tossed out for all kinds of reasons. According to a report by Newsmax's Steve Cortez, the rejection rate for mail-in ballots in Georgia for this election is 0.24%. 0.24%, even though the level of ballots was 6 times larger than 2016. At least 40,000 ballots should have been rejected for all kinds of reasons in Georgia, and they weren't. So what this means is there was no vetting of the ballots. There was no verification procedure for the chain of custody of these ballots, like signature verification. And this is why the votes have to be audited in Atlanta. These are by their nature uncertifiable ballots, and without those certifiable ballots, Biden cannot win this election. All right. I am glad to see that there are at least 2 Republicans in Michigan with the honesty and indeed the courage to stand up and say, look, we've got hundreds of thousands of ballots, nearly 75% of the sum total are radically questionable in terms of legitimacy and authenticity. There's absolutely no way that we can vote to certify this. And no amount of calling us racists and bigots and neo-Nazis and threatening our families is going to change the fact that nearly 3/4 of these ballots are compromised. And we're not playing by your stupid partisan games, and we're going to follow the law. So God bless these 2 officials. God bless them, and we need to give them our full support. And they're not alone. Others are stepping up in Michigan and challenging the absurdity of the results there. An election fraud expert by the name of Russell Romslin of Allied Security Systems, he's filed an affidavit that reportedly details the physical probabilities of the election results there. According to the affidavit, I'm going to quote him here, my colleagues and I have studied the November 3rd, 2020 election results. Based on the significant anomalies and red flags that we've observed, we believe there is a significant probability that election results have been manipulated. And the affidavit goes on to allege that based on his probability assessment, there were upwards of nearly 500,000 excess ballots cast, a clear indicator of election fraud. So of course we'll be keeping an eye on how things flesh out in Michigan. Now, while good news is certainly coming out of Michigan, we do have some shenanigans going on in Wisconsin that I want to alert you to. But first, make sure you download our free gift for you by clicking on our link below. It's called our Fake News Antidote. It is a compilation of about 20 sites I go to for my news each and every single day, all conservative, all celebrating Trump and nationalist populism. And look, we need these news resources more today than ever before, and you can download your own copy of our Fake News Antidote completely free at the link down below in the pinned comment section, and you'll have a ready list of your go-to sites that you would definitely enjoy each and every day, and they'll inspire you throughout this entire process. It's yours absolutely free by clicking on the link below. It is my gift to you. All right, so Wisconsin. We did a live stream last night when it broke that the Wisconsin Elections Commission, okay, after seeing President Trump's recount petition and objections, they had an emergency meeting last night, apparently to change the recount manual in order to put obstacles up against Trump's recount challenge. This was coming from Andrew Hitt, who's the chairman of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. And so we did a live stream last night while that meeting was going on in Wisconsin to alert you to what was going on. So it looks like there is more shenanigans going on. The Gateway Pundit is reporting that only 12 Republicans have been selected among the hundreds of vote counters for the recount in Wisconsin. So what this means is that the recount is going to be conducted almost entirely by Democrat recounters, okay? Which of course is utterly absurd. So we're hoping that President Trump's team gets involved in this ASAP. Remember, it's the Trump campaign that's actually paying for this recount to the tune of $3 million. So I'm sure they're going to intervene here to make sure that the recount is a fair representation of Republican observers and recounters. But I want to give you up to date on these shenanigans that are going on in Wisconsin. This is an uphill battle all the way through, but as long as we stay on top of things, we are going to prevail. So let's keep our faith in that. Very, very exciting times ahead. So before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video on how Georgia is absolutely blowing